Mr. Arner?
No, no.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
So, I'll vote yes.
School district bill for consideration. Provide official notification to the Jim Thorpe School District of the county's decision relative to the administration building located at 410 Center Avenue, Jim Thorpe, pursuant to the letter of intent.
Move to modify the motion. So let me go ahead and read that, because I know we're probably going to go to discussion anyhow, but let me go ahead and, so I would move that we provide
Need
notification.
a second to that modification?
Yeah,
I'll second.
to modify it, yeah. Right, yeah. So, move to notify the Jim Thorpe School District of the county's decision to purchase the administration building located at 410 Center Avenue in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, as outlined in the letter of intent and with a final FMV, fair market value, purchase price, or not to exceed a fair market value purchase price, negotiated in consideration of the inspection report results specific to roof deficiencies and necessary abatement.
I want to repeat that again, sorry, so I fully understand it.
Yeah, so basically, the motion is to notify of a purchase with a final purchase price not to exceed fair market value and negotiated in consideration of the inspection report results specific to the roof deficiencies and necessary abatement. I would not be comfortable purchasing the building at the current price in the LOI, and I don't think it's is clear enough identifying if we would move forward that we wouldn't simply give them the 517.
So just to clarify the motion, would it be, you mentioned fair market value would be not to exceed the fair
Correct.
market value of what we have in the
It would-
letter of intent?
It would not to exceed a fair market value taken into consideration, because the fair market value at this time does not take into consideration the abatement and roof deficiencies.
So,
I thought all of that was in the estimate. It showed, wasn't it 136,000 to take the lead and?
No,
And
no,
asbestos out,
that's
or-
different. It wasn't in the appraisal.
the roof,
The roof, or there was no, in the appraisal, they did nothing. They didn't look at paint, asbestos, or any potential hazardous material that might be in the building. And that does impact the fair market value, the final fair market value of that.
Okay, but just for my, I think to clarify the motion, when we talk about that the fair market value negotiation would not exceed what's in the letter of intent. In other words, it wouldn't be higher than that.
Well, that's correct.
Right.
It would
That's what
not.
I'm saying, so it would be not fair market value.
Not to exceed,
right?
but in consideration of,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
yep. Fair market value not to exceed what's in the letter intent with due consideration for the report results.
So this is basically a motion to buy the building?
Right.
Okay.
Right,
buy the
so
building.
if we were.
And I would like to have a little bit of discussion
Yeah,
on
oh,
that
yeah,
before,
yeah,
before this even happens.
yeah, well, that's,
Right, but right now, you just have a motion.
yeah.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure, Rocky, if we decide to go ahead, that there's no thought that we're gonna stick to 517 and not consider
But the way
the
that that
results
reads,
of the resort.
we're gonna buy it if that comes back. It should be that we could have a further discussion on it if we wanna buy it. We're committed to it if this comes back and they explain it to us.
No, the problem with the way the motion is written, it was written so it could go either way, but that's not a motion. A motion has to say either we're going to or we're not. So what I did, in order to go to the point of discussion based upon the reality that we're in right now, make a motion to buy it, or I could say, I could just as easily, change it, but I think, again, this allows it to go to discussion based on the letter of intent, which was, we have an intent to purchase, therefore.
And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but just to respond to attorney, or,
Yeah.
See, you finally got one.
Yeah.
the motion is go ahead with the purchase.
The motion is, not the commotion, you said commotion, the motion. All right.
There is a commotion.
Yeah.
The motion is to go forward with the purchase, but to renegotiate the purchase price for something less than what's in the agreement,
Right.
the letter of intent.
Should this be approved, should this
Should be approved.
motion
Should be
pass,
approved.
which
That's
we
the-
haven't voted on yet.
Right.
Correct, yep. That's why we hire you. Good job. Yep.
Okay, would you like my discussion on this?
So that's been the second to the motion.
Yeah, Wayne did.
Oh, Wayne did. Wayne did.
I
Oh,
think,
okay.
yeah, I think Wayne did.
Well, then you have discussion.
Okay, I'm just gonna give a review to everybody of what I've seen of this project. I mean, I've seen other projects that we spend too much money over. And I just want to clarify a little bit of the information on the information that has been put out there to the people. There was like some information out there the 44 building was too inexpensive of a building per person. And the 44 building, first floor, was designed for elections and a conference room. 400 square feet of it, a voting machine storage area, 200 square feet, a paper storage area for ballots, 550 square foot conference room with a capacity of 104. 250 square foot, a workroom to process the election paperwork. This is an altogether application than workstation cubicles and should never be compared to $1 per value on a building. On the 410 Center Avenue property, there's a version of 9 million, which it's slightly over 9, and the other one's 8 million, which it's 999,000. I mean, you might as well say it's $8 million. The $8 million version, children and youth would have 1,820 square feet on the first floor, 6,384 square feet on the second floor, for a combined of 8,204 square feet. Aging would have the remaining 3,374 square feet on the first floor. And that was without the option, the 9 million was doing other renovations that would have been done to the building and plus to the parking lot. With proposed 50 children and youth employees and 18 aging employees for a total of 68, there are only 62 parking spots. My question in this picture, who would think of this, like even for the traffic that is going up to that building, you can't even drive up that road without pulling over. And where did aging ever come into this factor? We're bringing 18 more people to Jim Thorpe, where we're trying to get people out of Jim Thorpe that don't have to be here to ease the traffic. And a little bit of history on children and youth. Children and Youth currently has 4 caseworkers without a workspace. Another within the next year, we're going to hire 9. And that is where the problems that we have in that department, and that is what the state is telling us to do. You know, and these were things that should have been taken care of years ago. I mean, I build a house, if I get 2 houses, I hire more employees. There was never anything updated, upgraded in this department. And they went from 32 cases down to, I think the state wants you at 19 now. Like, this should have been stepped up 222. And I'm not taking anything away from the past commissioners. I mean, they looked at things and they wanted to balance the budget. But, I have, and the commissioners, in fact, when this all started off, I had this property that I presented, and we sort of put that to the wayside. But now I brought it back up to them last week because this here, to me, $9 million is an awful lot of money. And I have the alternate plan, and that would save the taxpayers money. St. Luke's owns a building on Iron Street, Lehigh, approximately 9,641 square feet that the county could purchase for $510. I think, did everybody hear that? $510 that could be moved into tomorrow.
10,
I mean,
10,000.
Yeah, 510,000.
Difference.
So 3,530. Yeah. So. So 3,543 square feet is available immediately. which would accommodate the increase in employees to the department. And this is something that we need this space now, not in 2023. Then there's an additional 2,128 square feet that will be vacated in November. And remaining to that is another additional 2,650 square feet that St. Luke's has their wound care center in. They're willing to stay there and pay us rent until they have their, what they have to do to finish at their hospital in Franklin Township. And then the Children and Youth Department would be self-sufficient at a location by themselves with plenty of parking, and we're getting people out of Jim Thorpe. And, and just to go a little bit beyond that, I just want to tell everybody what we're spending here in the county, what I'm looking at, okay? The money for renovations, we have $6,869,140 to renovate the courthouse. $5 million for the training center, possibly $1 million at the prison for safety and security issues, and that could be more. This building here itself, every day we're repairing, not every day, but once a week, we're probably repairing something here. The plumbing is bad. You know, my room is like a refrigerator. People are complaining about everything in the whole building. Even our administrator, how we adjust our heat, we disconnect the vent. You know, we disconnect the vent and then we hook it back up. We're not even taking care of the buildings that we have now, and this is a tremendous amount of money. And we sit here every week, okay? And before I even get into that, we never really had a discussion with the controller or a financial advisor over this. Although we did have discussion of the American Rescue Plan money. But this money is to help Carbon County till 2026, not to be abused at the blink of an eye. And every week we sit here and we talk about children and youth, okay? Staff, space, we need all of this. From the state, we get 80% reimbursed for children and youth. Now, this additional $2 million that they put in the budget can go to any building. It's not designated for the one in Lehighton or the one here at Jim Thorpe. That goes with the department. And if my feeling to this is, if we overspend, we're the problem, not the children and youth. And that's all I have to say.
I have a lot of things I want to point out to the constituents. There are so many moving parts in this puzzle. You talk mostly about children and youth there, but we have to consider the other offices that are extremely overcrowded, especially you know, with COVID. The offices we had the higher caseloads in were the offices that were extremely overcrowded, being the sheriff's, the district attorney, and see, which is the other one? I forgot which other one. Public defenders, that were extremely overcrowded. And it goes back to a little bit to what Rocky says is the courthouse definitely needs renovations. And we are looking at upgrading the air handling, and air quality is a lot of the system. People are shoulder to shoulder. Where we had more space in a lot of the offices, it was, we didn't have as many problems. The children and youth, you know, Rocky was right there. We currently have 29, I count, positions open. I think we had a resignation last week that was accepted. So at 28, but we have 29 positions we were hoping to fill. And it will be over 36 for sure next year. Our projected budget, you know, in children and youth, what we spend in that office now, 2021 budget, which ended the end of June, was $5,727,000 roughly. Our budget for 21-22 is $6,300,597 projected. But this includes that $2.5 million that we were looking at, which is for renovations of a building, et cetera, would still be about $7 million in the budget in children and youth. These are the issues the counties are faced with making decisions. We have a district attorney's office. It's overcrowded, as I mentioned, 15 people. If you go in that office, and I did take pictures, I wish I had them printed out beforehand. I did not get the time. But the public defender is another one. You have 5 attorneys, 3 clerical staff in 1 or 2 rooms. 2 rooms. How can you work with your clients in 2 rooms? District attorney has no rooms available to work with others. Sheriff's Department is overcrowded. They have 28 people. Who knows what that's going to expand to? And the more buildings we have, the more security we need at those buildings. So that also pushes things up as well. Aging, we talked a little bit about that. We're currently at 20 people in the aging office. They're overcrowded. And, so we're really have a lot of problems there. Some of the problems, children and youth, Rocky talked about the caseloads. That's because of mandates, legislation that increased the documentation, time involved in investigations, the amount of people who must be interviewed, and also increases the reporting requirements of our workers. Caseworker turnover due to stress and to moving to higher paid positions in other counties because they get paid so much more. And that has been one of our challenges. We did address that a little bit this year, probably not enough. And we're going to have to continue to look at those. Those are the ones we have been going through a great deal of stress the last 3 or more years with NERO, Northeast Regional Office of Human Services, and issues and citations with children and youth. We had a large turnover in that office as well, and some of it was management. We have a new person, a director there, compared to the other offices, and the amount of people she supervises and what she puts up with, it's far underpaid compared to a lot of the other law offices, and I think we all agree on that. And we certainly have to address that year because we don't want to lose her. Some of the other things, I talked about the COVID. Yeah, we talked about people keep jumping, well, why don't we go virtual? And it's not as easy as people may think, especially in a county office where you have less people and we have public coming in all the time. We have 3, 4, 5, 6 people in an office. A lot of our offices are a lot of interaction between the offices, such as clerk of courts, the pathonetary's office, and DA, public defender, and so many offices have to be within a short walking distance of the courthouse because they're in and out of the courthouse every day. Suggested, that we rent other spaces. That is a problem. I've been here 22 years now, and in almost every case, we have had issues with landlords in getting repairs or work done. To me, it is also a waste of taxpayer dollars because those people are putting money in their pocket and they also have to pay the taxes. So it's costing us more for not owning buildings. And one of the things I'd like to do, possibility, look at maybe some offices, combining some offices. Yeah, definitely we have to look at moving some offices out of Jim Thorpe. It's a major issue. Courthouse renovations, I know we're looking at another possible space to conduct a temporary courtroom. If we do those renovations, we're projected, 10 to 12 months. So we have 3 courtrooms now, possibly one of them, the latest one to be renovated, would be very little interference possibly, except when they upgrade the power system, the electrical system. We have asbestos issues in the building, things like, of that nature. And I already mentioned the air conditioning, heating system. The air quality in that system has not been good to begin with, and that causes problems, more health issues to the employees. So we get into those high costs that you talked about, sir, in renovating buildings. And it's extremely unfortunately, we wouldn't do anything sooner. It has really skyrocketed. But when you're looking at these renovations compared to, and I'm not talking I don't even know how I'm going to vote yet today, to tell you the truth, because this is such a difficult decision because there are so many moving costs and costs to the taxpayers. To the first estimate we had, I think, was $240 per square foot for renovations, $400 a square foot for construction. And we also have that issue of going out, okay, where are we gonna build children youth? Yeah, we can move them out of town because they don't have to be inside the courtroom like they used to because they have their own hearing officers and that, et cetera now. So what can we move out of town? Should we take a pause, look at other buildings? I know, people are telling me, hey, go up to Kovach, yeah, maybe one or two of those buildings. But again, I go back to with this security and having too many buildings as well. The building projects we have looked at since I've been here, and I brought this up before, was we had a building that was appraised at $300,000 in the appraisal, in the informal appraisal process. They appealed, or it was over 400, I'm sorry, it was over 400,000. They appealed informal before we got the appraisals from the company, and they had it lowered to less than 400,000. 1 year later, when we took over the reassessment of all the properties, they wanted to sell us the building. It would not budge off of $825,000. After we go out, we look at the building, we get appraisals. We looked at other bank space from the bank, renting the upstairs, putting a walkway into the courthouse. We looked at it twice already, getting a cost estimate, what it would cost to do that, to try to stay locally. That didn't work out. We were offered a commercial business here in Jim Thorpe, rental, but they wanted what we have to do by county code, go out there, get appraisals, what did it cost us per square foot to rent, which came in higher, and they wanted us to pay, I think it was at that time, well over $150,000 in renovations out of our pocket for a building we don't even own. So we have tried to purchase other buildings. We tried to put up the other building with the parking garage, and we got nothing but flack from a lot of the residents here in Jim Thorpe on that, and the stained glass and everything else. So we go into the 44 building, which is looking pretty good, I must say. It's expensive, it better look good.
Right.
But, and it's almost complete now, but no one wanted to tear that building down. The same people that opposed tearing it down, they didn't want to tear it down then they didn't want us renovating, so what the heck do you do? I understand all your concerns, because no matter what we do, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. It's just so difficult of a decision, and in my 22 years, I think the other biggest decision was selling Weatherwood at that time. And I think this is far worse than that. How do you tell over 200, or about 250 employees that don't work for them anymore? The hardest day of my life when I had to go up and tell them that. This is even worse, I think. But I'm gonna have half the constituents yelling at one side and half on the other side, so. The ones I wanna listen to, I'll put on my good side.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it is, so there's other moving parts, and just a few, and I wanted to take the time today to really educate the public that, hey, we have looked at all these issues. We looked at other buildings, we were offered other buildings, but either renovations, cost, et cetera, it knocked us out time and time again over the years. So we do have to make a move, especially in children and youth right now. Probably common knowledge, we have our issues with citations, on the verge of losing the license. Things are finally looking better for us after hiring more people, retaining more people, looking at new space for them, and you're really improving the process in the children and youth office. If we would have lost our license, our reimbursement would have went from 80% down to 50% of that current $6 million budget, so let's say. So we have some serious concerns and priorities we have to look at. So we'll wait and see today after the vote and see what happens.
Yeah, I look forward to take a couple minutes of additional time. Obviously, it's extremely important that we do due diligence. We involve the public in the conversations to understand their position in regard to that, because as it makes us better, allows us to make better informed decisions, right? Commissioner Notstein was talking about the 76 Susquehanna Street project, right? Take us back to March 2018, then in 2019, the board decided to kind of set it aside and let this board determine kind of the way ahead. At that point, as a two-level parking garage with about 24,000 square feet of office and conference space and even a courtroom up there. That was based on a want assessment, not a needs assessment, right? You go out and ask, what do you need? And they tell you what they really want instead of need. But nonetheless, it started identifying that we needed at least 24,000 square feet. But guess what? That office really wasn't going to meet what has occurred recently with like children and youth services. So that,
Yeah, what's to say, things aren't gonna change between now and the time we move into a new
even
building or
start,
whatever we do.
right? So our needs are great. You know, in January 6th of 2019, I did make a motion that we kind of do what I call a strategic pause, and for 90 days, look at our building plan. We didn't do that formally, but nonetheless, because of the way contracts play out and how discussions is, we probably spent months, before we got anywhere close to any decision of how we wanted to move ahead with 76 and 44. And we came up with a pretty good plan. But I'll also highlight, for the public who was not involved in the internal conversations, we did look at many buildings back in March of 2019. I mean, you have the YMCA building, the Sargent building, the school district office back then. Looking at, could we build in Packard and Yards? We all know it's a special flood hazard area. You can't really put anything down there. But nonetheless, due diligence was being done by this board. I may not have agreed with ultimately where we went, but nonetheless, we had those thoughtful conversations. So we aren't approaching this decision willy-nilly by any means. And look, the fact is, that's $2.66 million. It's destined for 10 people. I don't care how you slice it, conference room, putting voting equipment. That's what it comes down to. That's just a fact, all right? So that's that building. I like pictures, yeah, because I'm accustomed to drawing. I learned that up there in that building, right, on the hill. But let's talk a little bit about, right, that was $267 a square foot is what we were getting down here. All right, let's talk about that building right there, right? Carbon County Human Services Building, all right? At least that's what we're putting kind of in budget, or request to support that. Well over 32,000 square feet of usable space at this current time. The price per square foot, we can get it down to anywhere between $246, $278 per square foot, right? Depending on the plan we pursue, depending on how much parking is needed. Parking's a problem. Easily, we can get to 52 spots. Tell you we try to get to 62 spots, it goes up real sharp. We want to add another 50 spots to that. It cost us just under $1 million for one parking level to go up there. But again, that is something that has been considered and looked at. And I talk about the 32,000 square feet and its ability to hold up to 83 personnel employees, or a low of 63, which would more or less just be aging and children and youth. There's an additional 10,000 square feet available. And I'm saying that's ballpark. It's actually 9538 square feet available for the future. That's enough to host another 40 to 60 individuals up there. And that's converting the gymnasium into usable space, something that at this time we decided to leave alone. And part of that was because we felt that could continue to be, let me call it, a space that can be utilized by Carbon County residents, by our seniors, for our judicial sales, for our court operations when we're doing renovation, and it could be used for an emergency shelter. I'll bet you the Jim Thorpe residents don't know there's not an emergency shelter currently on the hill in Jim Thorpe other than the Dillies. How many people can you fit in the Dillies if it's not a bingo night? not too many in an emergency situation, right? So we want to retain that gym, right? Continuity of operations, emergency shelter. The space that children and youth needs is just under 13,000 square feet. That building down on Iron Street doesn't come close. It's about 25% short of the needs of children and youth services. This building here takes care of us today, and it takes care of us well into the future. Well into the future. I'm talking decades, 30 or 40 years into the future. But again, someone has to bite the bullet, not worry about, November 2023, right? And bite the bullet and make the hard decision about what is in the best interest, long-term, of this community. All right, funding. There's $12.2 million of American Rescue Plan. We kind of have about $1 million of it kind of set aside. We have one project down in the deeds office. We set some aside for our employees because of COVID issues, and like to do a gap grant. But the fact is, what we're seeing, space utilization, American Rescue Plan, that fits right in it. You gotta get people spaced out. You gotta give them better ventilation systems. You need to give them better work environments. Think about retention. Anyone who's ever left a place because of the work environment, right? People say salary, salary, salary. Well, actually, you'll see higher on that continuum, right, or to the left or right of it, quality of work environment and leadership, right? This is working towards creating a better work environment to help retain county employees. This right here, $6.89 million for the renovations. But here's the exception: if it's vacant. If it's totally vacant, there's not a person in that building, you will add to it, according to our construction consultant, you will add about 33% if you do this piecemeal, right? Moving people around, shuffling them around. So we're talking a $9 to $10 million project for MEP, right? Mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Understand, in this county, up until recently, I've never heard MEP as the priority need. The priority need has been space, right? Get the space because of the growth of county government. So again, I have no indication that there truly is a priority to MEP. The priority remains space. All right, that's that building there. So let's talk a little bit about that building, right? I got St. Luke's appraisal on this building. You know about that little portion of second floor that you see up there? Move-in ready, that $510,000 building? We know $2 to $3 million to get that in a workable environment. Jill Geisinger came to me. Her biggest concern isn't salaries. Her most recent, presented to me, biggest concern was the work environment, the space, the shoulder-to-shoulder necessity for those employees down here, right? So you're talking a building that's going to be $3 to $3.5 million, and it will not even hold all the children and youth services. It'll be lacking 25% of the square footage to meet their needs. It states that second floor, functional obsolescence, incurable. I don't know about you, but that sounds bad. Functional obsolescence, incurable. As it is our opinion that the cost of repair will most likely exceed any financial benefit. You know that schoolhouse on the hill, built after World War II? Guess when this one was built, all right? Before World War II. Keep that in mind as we look at making investments into the future. Children and Youth Services needs about $5.1 million to meet their space needs. They put in a little over a $2 million request. I asked them to consider a supplemental or a modification to their state requested budget. And with the help of Boyle Construction, they're looking into that possibility, regardless of where they ultimately end up. But they need to end up somewhere. They need to end up somewhere now. So think about what I mentioned about the courthouse project, that $6.9 million. Where are all those people gonna go if we wanna save you and me $3+ million? Office space rental, $10 a square foot. Add that up. That adds up. Now, where are you gonna find that square space that the court needs to operate in for a year? You know what? Yeah, we're gonna spend $1 million to move them temporarily, to put some infrastructure up there to meet those needs, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, ultimately, without that space, we really don't have an option that's gonna be in the best interest of the Carbon County taxpayers. So this is some of the thought on this. We could buy that building today for $500,000. It's gonna pay for itself in about 1 to 2 years. Because one, right now, because you know we have 3 offices up there right now, right? We could buy that office today, we could put the entire court up there, and it would pay for itself while we spent $6 million on renovations of that courthouse, $7 million. But again, that doesn't meet our space needs, but we could do it. But if we don't purchase that building, we have no place to go. We lose all our flexibility. But guess what we can do if we buy this building today, and 24 months from now, after, let's say, partial, if total renovations are complete, are done, we could sell that building. And guess what? We'll get 75, 80% back on whatever we paid for it, right? That can be expected in the market. We've already had someone who was competing against us for that building who offered in the low 400,000s. So we could purchase it, kind of like a rent to own, right? Or we can get rid of it, kind of like a lease. Take it for 2 years, and guess what? If it doesn't meet our needs, we get rid of it. Or we can go all in, do what is necessary to meet the needs of the county today into the future, buy it, and renovate it in the most cost-effective, efficient manner possible. And this is what I'm going to tell you. These 3 right up here, at the end of the day, regardless of what we're going to decide, and I've seen it in the projects we've done so far, we go all in. Once we make a decision, we're going to do everything we can to ensure the best interests of the Carbon County residents are taken care of when we make decisions. Solar won't pay. Solar won't pay. By the time it pays for itself, you have to replace it. I've been looking at solar for 2+ years, Jerry. Wanna let you know that. It doesn't pay, that aspect of going green. Understand, our number 1 priority, right, should be our seniors and have a senior center. Even Penn Forest has one. Weatherly, Lehighton, Nesquehoning, Palmerton. You want a senior center in Jim Thorpe? There's only one place you could potentially put it. How about 365 availability of a place for seniors to do events? Another venue for the Senior Olympics. Well, that's all I have on that one. Holy moly, that's a tough decision.
And I don't know where all like some of these numbers came from, because when I added it up, I don't know where it came to 13,000 square feet. That I know that was like for possibly storage that was in the larger renovation or whatever that was to it. But this is something, and I said, you add all these numbers up. Carbon County cannot afford the courthouse, they can't afford the prison, they can't afford everything added together.
Absolutely.
And I can guarantee you what's gonna happen here, and you see it all across the board. We're gonna work on this building up there, and things are gonna get neglected that need to be done at the courthouse, because we're gonna have to cut money somewhere. You know, the boilers that are being fixed a couple times in a month, what happens when them are gone? Are we gonna neglect that? Adult probation has moved out. We have a space down there. We don't even know who's going in them spaces. And with this move, and I understand this building, the front part of that building down there in Lehighton is old, but the other part is not as old. It's a new, if somebody just drive down there and look at it, you'll see how nice of a building it is. and I never said it was perfect, but it's like if we would take children and youth out of 76, all that space, we would have to take people from the courts. This building up here has not even addressed any of the issues in the courts. It is not, nothing. Aging is impermanent. That cost us $40,000 a year. If you would take a third of that building, that cost, and say that aging, it would take us 50 years to pay that $2.5 million back at the rate that we're paying. So money-wise, I don't really see where it's going. And I said, again, I go back to it. We didn't discuss anything with our financial people. And just so that everybody is aware of it, this motion is to buy the building. That's what it is. It's not to, you know, if you go out and buy a car and you say, okay, well, I'll buy it if the tires are all right, but you come there and one's worn, I'll buy it anyway. And that's what this is gonna be. You're gonna buy this building, and the taxpayers, for 3 years from now, when things don't get fixed around here, then they're gonna come back and say, oh, you know what, we need a new boiler in the courthouse. We need a new roof here. You know, and the tax increase did not, starts today. You might.
Building, which would have been perfect for us, but, I would only ask if I went along with this motion, or even on.
If you go along with this motion, Wayne, you bought the building. There's no backing off.
I know that. I know that. But you know, and Chris was right in one thing, and you know it yourself, children and youth needs that space now.
Exactly,
not
and they
tomorrow.
could move into Lehigh tomorrow.
The-
Simple as that.
Both building projects have to be scaled back.
Yeah.
Beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
We were looking at the tiles, I say, forget it, you know, just clean them,
Yep.
do what we can with the tiles, keep the one restroom the way it is. We were looking at renovations. Yes, we must upgrade the heating, air conditioning systems, plumbing, et cetera. The electrical system is outdated, no doubt about it, and that building was built a lot, or what was it, 1893? Something like that, or 19, whatever it was. I forget offhand, see it every day, but, unless we can scale back several $1 million or between the two projects. And even if we purchase that building, it's still not going to meet our future needs. I would not be in favor of doing any other than necessary renovations, such as a roof or maybe heating, ventilation to that building until we have a better grip. I think we need the space now and move them, but make no other renovations at this particular time until we get the courthouse done. You know, I presented several times and what I'd like to see moved around in the courthouse. I talked to court administration about it, met with court administration and adult probation about borrowing some temporary space. There's a lot of issues with that as well. But my number one concern, and we're still waiting for the official notification from the state, the agreement or, what's the word I'm looking for? The settlement agreement with children and youth. And I really don't want to jeopardize that because it jeopardizes everything we have on the table right now. As far as finances, we lose that funding due to a citations or whatever. If we don't get that with the state now, we're gonna lose that 30% funding.
And we'll lose that funding no matter what, where we're going. You know, that's my point about
Well,
it.
I think our saving grace is, Rocky, if we purchase it, we can sell it once its usefulness to us abates. And that could be after the courthouse renovation project. But you can't invest, and it's $7 million for that courthouse renovation project, as is right now. If we do it any other way, it's gonna take us over $10 million, and we know we can't do that. We have to scale back. The problem is, and it puts us in a difficult position, without that building up there, we lose all our flexibility, and we need to maintain our flexibility, if nothing else. and it's worth 517,000 or whatever we end up agreeing with the school district, because we're gonna save that in rental space.
Would the court be willing to move domestic relations up there?
You're still here, right?
Hate to put you on the spot, but when I talk to the judges, I'm not gonna really condemn them, but every time I talk to them, well, they don't wanna move this office out, they don't wanna move this office out. Someone has to move. Let's get real, people. Someone has to move. End the subject. And if we, as the board, 2 or 3 vote either way, or 1 to 2, 2 to 1, whatever the vote is at that particular time, we have got to make some decisions and move forward. I'm getting tired after how many years did I say? I've said previously 15 years at looking at other buildings and trying to find space, keep it local, and it's just not happening. I think it's about time we make a damn decision and move forward. I would agree to the decision to proceed, provided we do not spend any unnecessary funding in that building until we get the courthouse project done and get a concrete answer from the court system on what is gonna happen in the courthouse. I thought we were supposed to have a meeting on that previously, but didn't happen yet. Everyone's so busy right now. But I think a temporary, I really hate to do this. I mean, it's,
We have to.
Could I just say,
Mark can say
Yeah.
something a little bit too, but I think now we're looking at not doing something up there until we see what we can cut in the courthouse.
Cut in the
And there's
courthouse
not things to be cut. The electric gotta be done, the plumbing
yeah,
gotta be
yeah,
done,
well,
everything
all
gotta
I'm
be
saying
done, and
is
then we're gonna
hallways
cut,
and some
shortcut that again. And like I said, in 3 years from now, we're gonna come back and, oh my God, we should have did this. When I first came on board here, out at the park, there was actually an issue out there with the oil boiler, where we were paying to fix the oil boiler every year. It's going on and on and on, couple $100 a year. And what wound up happening, we put a new oil burner in for $4,600. That's the same thing we're gonna wind up over here in the courthouse. We're gonna pay where we should have fixed it in the first place. There's stuff that has to be fixed around here. It can't be left going. And I wouldn't be, hey, if you just wanna buy the building and that's okay and you put that on, but I am not gonna be part of not doing the courthouse the proper way. You just can't throw carpet in and throw people in it.
Without having that building up there.
okay.
Whatever, go ahead.
Did you have one quick comment?
well, I just was concerned, like a lot of the residents that expressed their opinion about their opposition to the project, because it is a large capital investment in doing this. And of course, we have a high senior citizen population in the county, fixed income folks, taxes obviously are gonna go up. I honestly do not think that the solution for the county space problem is in Jim Thorpe. I think it's the wrong building in the wrong location. I think the cost is way too high. So I don't want to see it become, but I hate to use the word white elephant. I think that's what it could become for the county.
I'm sorry, you're experiencing construction, project management, and pricing of building renovated space?
I am not an expert. I
Yeah,
talked to
thank
Commissioner
you.
Arner. He's a
And I would
contractor.
say Mr. Lukasevich is not either.
Correct.
Well, I do have an MBA from Lehigh, and my concentration was project management, so I do know pricing. Thank you, Rocky.
I have an MBA in finance.
Call for the vote.
Thank you.
Mr. Arner.
And this is the vote to buy the building,
Right.
correct?
Nothing else.
No. I didn't hear nothing else. I heard to buy the building.
No, I mean, provided we do
As the
not.
motion was,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Lukasevich.
yes.
Mr. Notstein.
I walk out of this room today with a target on my
Either
back.
way,
but
it doesn't.
Either way, so I'll vote yes, but I will not support any future renovations up there until we get this issue settled with Children, Youth and others. Just-
Yeah.
I have no further